With my PhD and on a visit to Namibia in February this year, I actually came up across a very interesting topic because they had a United European visit to get an audit done on the traceability system, and it was a little unexpected result that we came across. So I just want to introduce my okay. So the University of Stellenbosch recently found traces of goats, buffalo, and other substances in their beef products. So that was quite shocking because people buy beef and they want to get the real product. So in Kenya, donkey meat was also passed off as beef. In England, horse meat. And that came across as, do people now trust traceability systems? And the question was, what is traceability? Traceability is defined as a means to track any food, feed, food-producing animal or substance that will be used for consumption through all stages of production, processing, and distribution. So you get the tracing that you can go back from the consumer right to where the primary producer takes place, and the tracking, the whole system, the life cycle of where the cattle was born, and to track it through its stages of its lifestyle. So one of the first traceability systems introduced was Canada in 2001. And when they had a case of mad cow disease in May 2003, the system proved to be inadequate. So again, people were asking, why do we have traceability? Japan had some success in about the same period, but it just didn't really catch fire. So in 2011, Botswana had a system, and they had a traceability audit, and they failed the audit because they didn't have all the expected policies in place. So what went wrong? Why didn't they get the audit ready? So now what happened, there's legislation to enforce traceability. From January 2005, all feed and food producing business operators be bound by legislation to have traceability systems, even in cases where the consumers do not require it. And there are lots of legal implications. They've got traceability standards, ISO standards, Codex principles, and the General Food Law of the European Union. Now what's happening now is the General Food Law of the European Union says specifically at point 3, provides procedures in matters of food safety, among other things, the implementation of traceability systems in the food and feed supply chains in Europe. So Europe now requires traceability. You cannot buy beef in Europe without having a traceability record. Now what happened in January this year, horse meat was found in the product. So and it's meat coming from England and Ireland itself. It's not meat coming from Namibia or Swaziland. That's the problem. It's meat coming from their own countries. So this now certifications, the procedure by which official certification bodies and officially recognized bodies provide written and equivalent assurance that foods or food control systems conform to requirements. So there's a lot of rules and regulations and certification and legislation put in place to ensure that these traceability systems actually work. Now, it's quite a complex system. You cannot just decide, well, I'm going to have a herd of cattle, I'm going to track the whole record, and then one day I'm just going to export it to the European Union. There's a lot of legislation, tracking of animal movement, monitoring animal health, disease control, managing nutrition and yield, and identification of animals. That's all part of the required legislation when you are able to export. So what happens is tracking of animal movement is the most important one. That is where they really hammer on the traceability. You have to have movement permits. So when an animal moves from one farm to the other farm, or from anywhere, farm to an abattoir, farm to an auction, they have to have movement permits. There has to be captured on the movement register, reporting the movements, record keeping, and then the one thing that's really important is the 90-40-day rule. That says that if I want to export any animal, it has to be in the country for at least 90 days. And it has to be on my farm for at least 40 days. That's the main principle of the 90-40-day rule. And there has to be, all of that data must be captured on the central database. Now, just to show you how complicated it becomes, farm-to-farm movements is a departure register, there's an arrival register, it's captured on the veterinary services database, all of the information goes there, and everything that happens is captured. So that's the easiest process, going from farm to farm. But when you go to farm to abattoir, the Department of Veterinary Service abattoir come in as well, and the whole process explained how it's captured, everything is transferred to a database. So you can see it's not as easy as just taking an animal and taking it to an export abattoir. Now, the auction is again a little bit more complicated. with the farm of origin, livestock auction database, buyers holding within Hull veterinary services database. So it's very, people cannot just decide today I'm going to go to an auction with an animal. And everything is that's currently shown there is in the Namibian livestock traceability system as we are speaking. That's how it was built, that's how it was captured. All this information that you see there is currently on the database. And then you've got the monitoring of the animal health, you've got regular dipping events, you've got the animal details captured in a register. People in Swaziland, they capture it by hand. In Namibia, they've got RFID tags that they scan the animals' tags and they capture the detail on the database. And all animals absent from the dipping event are accounted for. So you can't just go to a dipping event and then where are your animals? You have to say where each and every one of them are. In case of any diseases like foot and mouth disease or tick-borne diseases, you have to account for all your animals. And then disease control, you've got your animal disease zoning, animal disease outbreaks and quarantine, and animal disease prevention. Then managing nutrition and yield, no added hormones, no any illegal substances, bone meal, anything in the feed products. Then you also have to identify animals, cattle identification. You've got double ear tags, both in Swaziland and Namibia. You've got an individual identification from 6 months of age, and ensures that each animal is individually traceable. Now, in terms of sustainability, we've got social responsibility, economic impact, and the environment. And what it seems like, this is a successful project. Namibia started with NAMLITS, the system, in 2006. It's been operational, it's working. And they've got social responsibility, they take care of the farmers, they've got the information. The economic impact is there, the farmers are exporting, they are making money, and the environment is not being damaged in any way. So it's a sustainable project. Now, looking at this from an active network theory perspective, I decided not to go into too much detail on the active network theory itself, but rather looking at scales of space, time, and actors, developing countries through the pressure of modernization, and making the invisible visible. Because the whole aim is the poor communal farmers that want to start exporting, who is giving them a voice? No one is giving them a voice. How can we give them a voice? Now, just to give you a quick background, Namibia is to the northwest, just the neighboring country. We are currently here. And Swaziland is a very small country, also in southern Africa. Now, this is just quickly some background. Namibia is the world's 34th largest country. It's the second least populated country in the world, and it shares the borders. Namibia has a population of 2.1 million people. They live below the poverty line, half of them. And about 15% of the adult population suffer of HIV and AIDS. Now, what's important to see here is that Namibia has got a red line. That line there is actually red. And it says that everyone below the red line can export. But everyone on top of the red line has been quarantined. That area is an infected zone. What happened, a buffalo came from Zambia, and if a buffalo walks onto that restricted area, the whole area gets quarantined. Now what they do is they don't just quarantine that area, they quarantine the entire red line. So what they're trying to do now is get the animals tagged on the northern communal areas. That whole area is called the northern communal area. Get them tagged and get those people able to export. Okay, so this is just the Namibian livestock identification and traceability system. And it actually enables you, when you scan that barcode, oops, how do I get back? When you scan that barcode, you'll get the full tracking history of the animal. Now, NAMLITS, the northern communal areas, they have 2,500 cattle that have been ear tagged, and they've got the RFID in the left ear and the conventional tag in the right ear. And that's captured everything on the NAMLIT system. Now there's lots of legislation to make sure that the cattle are branded in the right way, on the right shoulder of the animal, and where they're supposed to be branded, how they're supposed to be branded. There's regulation about that. Then you've got 3 export abattoirs, Windhoek, Witvlei, and Okahandja. And the grading of the meat, the A-grade meat, gets exported to European Union and Norway. Now there's lots of benefits. I'm going to skip that. The second one is Swaziland. I'm not going to focus too much on that. They just got a dual system of land tenure, Swazi national land and the title deed land. Now, Kingdom Swati, the third, owns most of the national land, and there's about 100,000 household-operated farms living on the national lands. Subsistence agriculture is engaged in by more than half of the population. Most of them are illiterate, and 25% of the country suffers from HIV and AIDS. Now, Swaziland Livestock Information and Traceability System was introduced, And in March 2012, all the communal farmers' animals started to be ear tagged. Okay, now they just needed some legislation. Let's skip that. There's some benefits to the slits to Swaziland Livestock Information and Traceability System. Assist in rapid containment of animal diseases in the case of outbreaks. Improve efficiency of government-controlled movement permits. Assist in the reduction of stock theft. Assist in production management. And improves access to markets of livestock and livestock products. They already have proved the benefits. They are happy. The people are adopting the system. And we're going to see in future what's going to happen with Swaziland. The problem is now what came in is 2 weeks before the European Union came to do the visit, the audit visit, they received a brief. And all of a sudden, from getting ready for the audit in 2006 until 2013, 2 weeks before the audit, the whole ballgame changed. They had added 4 additional requirements that was not part of the original design of NAMLIS, the Namibian Livestock Traceability System. So the whole process was not transparent. What they said is, now all animals sold in auctions must also comply with the 40-day rule, or else the entire herd is disqualified. What that means is, if you want to sell an animal on auction, your entire herd must have been on your farm for 40 days or longer. That was not specified initially. Livestock eligible for the European Union market must be kept in closed herds for the 40 days. Now people, the animals walk on a farm. How do you keep them separate? That wasn't part of the requirements, so they didn't do that. Newly introduced animals must be kept in isolation for 40 days before mixing with European Union eligible animals. Again, how do you do that? And at the feedlot, animals should be kept in separate pens according to date of introduction and a distance away from animal of lesser status. All of this could have been implemented if it was made transparent in 2006, but it was not. So what is the outcome of the audit? We don't know yet. But as far as we're concerned, Namibia didn't adhere to all the regulations. We predict the outcome will be a failure, which will stop them from being able to export. So just in terms of developing countries feel the pressure of modernization, colonization. They know they have to get a democracy, they have to get to be able to work in money. Cattle is no longer their form of wealth, they have to start earning real money. The scales of space in these cases show how the local becomes global, how Swaziland and Namibia becomes global exporters. The scales of time highlight the changes made by the European Union before an audit and its consequences. The scales of actors include the individual farmer, the exportation process in the European Union. And the whole thing is now, how can we give the communal farmer a voice and say, well, I did everything. I got my animals ear tagged, I got them dipped, I went through all the rigorous processes, and now just before I want to get them exported, you now tell me I can no longer export. And then just Namibia and Swaziland's livestock traceability systems were discussed. And other developing countries can also be considered maybe, and newer ways of implementing technology and assisting and traceability of animals can be investigated. And then just finally, the point I want to end off with is, the exported beef needs to be safe. Food safety is a burning issue. And our people are selling horse meat, donkey meat, water buffalo as part of beef. And it's not unsafe, but it's unethical. But beef has to be safe. But is the extent of the legislation being enforced making it sustainable for poor countries? And that's the question I want to leave you with.